The dollar closes out a bruising July under pressure from Fed ambiguity, while metals, equities, and Forex markets move sharply into the session end. Silver, the Dow, and dollar-yen are all in focus today, and the day's biggest mover is saved for last. Visa's session traded with underlying bid tone, and structure continues to point toward higher levels. The trend remains firmly bullish, and the path of least resistance still leans higher as long as the broader setup holds. Recent price action suggests the market is more likely to extend gains rather than surrender ground. Silver gave back ground through today's session, and the trend structure has shifted to favor lower levels. Price action has been rejecting recovery attempts, keeping the broader lean pointed downward. The market looks more likely to probe lower levels, while this bearish alignment holds. Meta finished the session on the back foot, with price action reinforcing a bearish structure that tilts the probable path toward lower levels. Selling pressure has been consistent, leaving little room for recovery momentum to build. The trend continues to lean lower while this setup remains in place. US oil traded with mild underlying support, yet the probable path skews toward lower levels as structure holds the trend in check. Despite some firmness from Hormuz uncertainty during the session, the broader lean remains to the downside. Price action suggests lower levels are more likely to be tested before any sustained recovery builds. The Dow closed Friday's session with a mild bullish tone on the day, though the probable path still angles toward lower levels. Underlying structure has not fully committed to the upside, and recent price action leaves the trend leaning toward a downside test. The market appears more likely to revisit lower levels, while that tension remains unresolved. Bitcoin's session reflected mild bearish pressure, and the trend leans toward lower levels as structure continues to deteriorate. Price action has been unable to sustain any meaningful recovery, keeping the probable path pointed downward. The market looks more likely to extend toward lower levels while this mild bearish alignment remains intact. Brent crude held a constructive tone through the session, with the trend showing a mild bullish lean and the probable path tilting toward higher levels. Supply uncertainty from the region provided some underpinning during the day's trade. Structure supports the view that higher levels are the more likely outcome while this setup holds. McDonald's traded with a mild bearish trend on the session, yet the probable path tilts toward higher levels as underlying support holds firm. Price action has shown resilience at lower levels, suggesting the market is more likely to work toward higher ground rather than extend declines. The setup leans higher while that structural support remains valid. U.S. second quarter growth came in at 1.5%, with core inflation still running at 3.3%, keeping the Fed's path unclear as the dollar wrapped up a weak month. Eurozone inflation edged higher in July, adding pressure on the ECB. The single event to watch on today's calendar is the Bank of Japan policy rate decision. Dollar Canada was the standout mover of the day, with a strongly bearish trend driving price firmly toward lower levels. Canadian dollar strength dominated as the pair sold off through the session, and the probable path remains clearly pointed lower. The structure is among the cleanest on the board, with lower levels the most likely destination while this trend holds. That wraps Friday's evening session for ForexBullion. If this breakdown was useful, subscribing keeps the daily wrap in your feed. The morning edition checks whether these end-of-month moves carry momentum into the new week. This is general market information for educational purposes only, not financial advice.